Tell that to my hurt feelings. Tell that to my shattered self-confidence. Welcome or welcome back if you're new here. My name's Ashley and this is Gus. He just woke up from a nap. I help people level up, learn how to love every single bit and piece of themselves and become their dream self. If that sounds good to you, then I would super recommend sticking around and clicking that subscribe button down below. If you're watching this, it means that you probably know deep down your relationship isn't the healthiest and you're here seeking validation of its toxicity. That or someone sent you this video and they are trying to send a very, very clear and loud message. Whatever the reasons may be, if you're looking for signs of a toxic relationship, then keep on watching. First and foremost, what exactly is a toxic relationship? Well, according to Very Well Mind, a toxic relationship is one that makes you feel unsupported, misunderstood, demeaned, or attacked. A relationship becomes toxic when your well-being becomes threatened, whether that's your mental, physical, or emotional health. We hear a lot about toxic relationships in the romantic capacity, but honestly, I believe that both platonic and romantic relationships can be toxic. If the relationship is taking a toll on your well-being, it's toxic. Whether or not you know you're in a toxic relationship or not, it's still important to recognize patterns of toxicity to maintain your emotional, mental, and physical health. Recognizing toxic patterns early on can preserve your self-worth as well as prevent normalization of these behaviors. People in toxic relationships often become desensitized to these toxic behaviors and often accept them as normal or inevitable. By being able to recognize toxic patterns, that's the first step in breaking the cycle and leaving the relationship, as well as breaking any possible cycles you have in yourself from trauma of growing up in a toxic environment yourself. Now that we've defined what a toxic relationship is, let's get into the actual signs of them. Number one, lack of communication. When it comes to communicating with your partner, you might find it difficult to communicate with them. This could often lead to a difficulty in expressing your feelings because you might feel like they will either turn them against you or they won't understand. You'll feel like your needs aren't being met or somehow your feelings are just not valid. There could also be constant misunderstandings and arguments over big things to little things to everything being your fault for God knows why. Another instance of lack of communication could be feeling unheard or invalidated pretty consistently. Number two, control and manipulation. It doesn't matter the range of toxicity, toxic is toxic. Signs of control and manipulation often include your partner dictating your actions or your decisions. This can be in the form of telling you what to wear or telling you what you can't wear, telling you who you can and cannot see. For example, you are a female dating a super insecure, toxic male, and he tells you can't have guy friends, but then it's your birthday coming up and you have a guy best friend since your childhood and it is strictly platonic. Like he's literally married, nothing is gonna happen. You are talking to your boyfriend about your birthday party and who you're going to invite. And you're like, yeah, I want to invite Nick is his name. And then your boyfriend is like, oh, so you're like trading me in for Nick? Like, what does Nick have that I don't? That would be an example of like a misunderstanding or an argument. And then he tells you, you can't invite Nick. Nick isn't good for you. He's a bad friend, blah, blah, blah. And so then that would be control and manipulation by dictating your action or decision whether or not to invite Nick to your birthday. Other examples of control and manipulation can include manipulative behavior to get their way. So back to the best friend Nick birthday party thing, your partner can say something like, it really, really hurts that you would rather hang out with other guys on your birthday than me. Like I had a whole surprise night planned for you and you just ruined it. Go and have fun with Nick. That would be manipulation, in manipulating your feelings to make you feel guilty so that you just like straight up throw away your whole birthday party so that you can hang out with your boyfriend who probably doesn't actually have a huge night planned. He just wants to isolate you, which we will get to later. The next sign of control and manipulation can be feeling like you're walking on eggshells. Let's say you want to tell your boyfriend that you decided to invite Nick, your childhood best guy friend, but you're really nervous about it and you talk to your best friend about like how you should say it when really it's just a conversation. You shouldn't have so much anxiety telling your boyfriend who you're inviting to your birthday, but you do because you don't want to say the wrong thing, you don't want to like create an argument, you don't want to make him uncomfortable or any of those negative feelings. So that would be walking on eggshells. This next sign contains a trigger warning as it discusses one form of abuse, so go ahead and skip forward if that's not for you. Emotional abuse. I kind of relate to this next point. So if you're watching this and you're having a hard time validating yourself, but some of this stuff is like right on the nail, don't worry, you're not alone. Signs of emotional abuse can include insults, belittling, and name calling. But then there's gaslighting, which is a form of manipulation that makes you question your sanity. Oh my God, I've been through it with the gaslighting. Gaslighting, I personally feel like is really, really hard to recognize because you want to believe that your partner is right and like has the best intentions and isn't outright manipulating you. So I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about gaslighting specifically because it took me probably like 2 or 3 years to really like hone in on what gaslighting was in my relationship. And then it got to the point where like I was able to very easily say, you're gaslighting me. Let's try that again. Gaslighting can be denying reality, minimizing your concerns, shifting blame, twisting facts, projection, creating doubt, and withholding information. An example of denying reality would be your partner or friend saying something like, I never said that, you're imagining things, even though you know for a fact they said that. So then that makes you question your memory. An example of minimizing concern is when you express hurt or concern over their behavior and then they just like brush it off like it's not that big of a deal. You're overreacting. Or my favorite one. It's just a joke. It's supposed to be funny. After saying, hey, that hurt my feelings. What you said wasn't okay. That hurt my feelings. Oh, well, it was just a joke. Oh, haha, sorry. Tell that to my hurt feelings. Tell that to my shattered self-confidence. Thank you. You're allowed to be hurt over a joke, okay? So when a concern is minimized, they are downplaying your feelings and try to make you feel irrational for being upset. Like if I got upset over a joke, I would often feel super invalidated and crazy, especially because like I'm mentally ill and I have to deal with the stigma of being mentally ill every day of my life. So I would like text my friends the instance and be like, am I overreacting? Like, was it a funny joke or was it not a funny joke? And 90% of the time they'd be like, yeah, that's not okay. You're being gaslit, baby. Going through this list of like the emotional abuse, especially the gaslighting, just so many memories are like coming to the forefront of my brain. And I'm just like, how did I miss that? I feel like shifting blame is pretty obvious, but for those that work better with examples, an example of this would be your partner saying, I wouldn't have done this if you hadn't have done this, as if you're responsible for their behavior and making you accountable for it. I wouldn't have thrown your grandmother's urn and shattered it all over the living room and stained the couch with her ashes if you hadn't have pissed me off and just answered my phone call. And with this, they deflect accountability. An example of twisting facts is reinterpreting past events and then like twisting them so that they look better or they're the one that's right or like they know best. An example of something that they would say would be like, you're remembering it wrong. That's not actually what happened. This is what happened. An example of creating doubt would be like subtly questioning your judgment or sanity to the point that you start to doubt yourself. In this instance, they might say something like, are you sure you remember that correctly? I think you're just paranoid. The last example of gaslighting specifically would be withholding information, which is intentionally withholding information or lying about certain details in order to confuse you. Example of that would be, I never got that text, even though you know for a fact you sent it and you literally like have it in your receipts. That is it for gaslighting under emotional abuse, but the next sign of emotional abuse is extreme jealousy or possessiveness. Back to inviting Nick, your childhood best friend, to your birthday party. Your boyfriend agrees to letting Nick come, but only if he can go too. And then the whole night, like, he's holding on to you and he's glaring at all the other guys who are your friends, who also have girlfriends who are there. At the end of the night, he's like, you were talking to Nick for so long. Why are you talking to him longer than you talked to me? The next sign of a toxic relationship is isolation. Isolation can come in the form of encouraging you to stay away from your friends and family. In the birthday example, that would go back to the very beginning of your boyfriend having you just cancel your birthday party just so that he can take you out, just so that it's just you two and not you with your friends and family. You can also feel lonely and isolated in the relationship because your partner has made it so that they are the only person that you can and should and do rely on. They want you to cut all ties with anyone that is not them. There's also a loss of independence or identity. Examples of this would be your partner telling you how to dress or who to hang out with, what to eat. You are not your own human being. You are their partner, and that is your identity. I have another trigger warning for another sign. We are talking about 2 other forms of abuse. So if this is not for you, go ahead and skip forward. The next sign of a toxic relationship, physical and or sexual abuse. This is literally any form of physical violence or threats. If you do not consent to them putting their hands on you or touching you in any way, shape, or form, that is assault. And if it is continued, that is abuse. There's also coercion and pressure into sexual activities. Going back to the birthday example, you do decide to cancel your whole birthday party and just do whatever it is that your boyfriend had planned. You both come home after celebrating your birthday and he's like, am I gonna get a thank you for throwing you something great? So there's manipulation, trying to guilt you. Then you're like, oh yeah, no, thanks babe. I thought I said thank you, but it was super, super great. And then he's like, oh, well, you can show me thank you in another way, and is essentially trying to coerce you into some form of sexual act. There is also feeling afraid or unsafe. That is the biggest red flag in any relationship of any kind. You should always feel safe and secure in relationships, whether it is platonic, romantic, or familial. If any relationship ever makes you feel afraid and unsafe, then you need to leave. The next sign of a toxic relationship is unequal power dynamics. This can come in the form of imbalance in decision-making or finances, feeling inferior or controlled by your partner's authority or status. Let's say your partner, he's making $200,000 a year, whereas you are getting your master's and you are baristaing. So obviously there is a huge power difference between someone making $200K and a full-time student, part-time barista. And your partner just like always makes sure that you know that. And your partner is the one that's like paying for like all your groceries, the bills, you live together, and like it's all him because he just wants to take care of you. But then whenever things get rocky, he always threatens to like take that away. There's also an inability to negotiate or compromise because whatever they say goes. I know this one was a doozy and you probably have a lot to unpack. I know I do, but I hope that this video helped you in one way or another to recognize some toxic patterns that are happening in your relationship so that you can take the next step in loving yourself and leaving that relationship. You deserve nothing but to be loved. You deserve kindness, you deserve patience, you deserve grace. If that person does not make you feel safe, they're not giving you what you deserve. If you are in a toxic relationship, I highly recommend seeking support. I will have some linked down below, as well as resources to continue to read up on. You deserve to prioritize yourself, especially when it comes to your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And if anything is making you sacrifice any of those, then it's not for you and you need to cut that out of your life. And that concludes this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, I would really appreciate you giving a like and a thumbs up. If you made it all the way to the end, comment a little red heart emoji. If you want more encouraging content throughout the week, make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. If you're looking to make like-minded friends all around the world who are also on their self-love, self-improvement, mental health, healing journey, then I would super recommend joining my Discord. That will also be linked in the description down below. Thanks again for hanging, and I'll see you again next week. Bye! Hi! You want to say hi to everyone? Hi, did you just wake up from a nap? You just wake up from a nap? Oh, I love you.